Welcome to Fix It Home Improvement, covering projects that every homeowner should know and great products for home and garden.
Hi, I'm JC, and this is where we share weekly home improvement tips. I'm here with my co-host Cindy.
Hello, JC.
Hi, Cindy. Today we're going to be talking about wood flooring, and we'd like to thank Jennifer Whittington for liking and sharing the podcast. And we also had an interview with Grant Kish. He's a product expert from BuildDirect.com, and he gave us some flooring tips. In ancient Greece, pebbles were used in homes to create mosaic flooring, and they were held together with mortar.
What does it have to do with wood flooring?
In ancient Rome, homes of the wealthy had large natural stone slabs supported by joists, and they put this above a furnace on one side of the flooring. They vented it out the other side to draw the heat underneath the stone, created the first heated flooring. And then early American Indian tribes would spread large amounts of sand down on the floors of their tents or their homes for flooring. And some of the tribes used peanut and sunflower seeds. They spread them over the ground, and then over time the oil from the shells would smooth out the floor and the dirt would become hard from the oils in that.
I would like to say none of those materials were wood.
So rather than sand or stone, you
dirt.
can get solid wood flooring or engineered flooring, and solid wood flooring is made from a solid piece of wood. You're going to have a tongue and groove edge, and that holds the pieces flush together. And it's going to come in a wide range of species. You have different grain patterns, color, and hardness. And one of the ratings you should be looking for when you're looking at hardwood floors is the Janka rating.
What's that?
And it's Janka, and this is how hard it is. So most scales are going to have 0 to 4,000, but some species of wood, like eucalyptus, actually is like a 5,000 Janka. But it's weird, like most of the charts you see is 0 to 4,000, but there's wood that's higher than that.
Again, we can't do like from 0 to 10.
Yeah, right, exactly. So in the flooring industry, red oak is considered the benchmark for a durable wood floor, and it has a Janka rating of 1290. So the higher the number, the less likely the wood is to dent. Red oak is also one of the most popular choices for wood flooring in the U.S. And other popular woods, white oak, this has a Janka of 1360. Hickory has a Janka of 1820. Hard maple is 1450. Although red maple is only 950. So in 1906, an Austrian wood researcher, Gabriel Janka, came up with this test to see how much pressure it took to drive a small steel ball half its diameter into a piece of wood, and that's the Janka rating.
Wow, thanks.
Balsa wood is the worst for flooring. It's 100 on the scale, although it's great for model airplanes. You can get a variety.
Is there any wood that's a 0?
You know, the lowest I saw was 100 for the balsa wood.
So the scale really goes from 100 to 4,000.
Well, sometimes 5,000. So the most popular textures for wood flooring is smooth, distressed, hand-scraped, and wire-brushed. With the smooth, sometimes they call this traditional. The wood is sanded and finished smooth at the factory, and a smooth finish is going to show more scratches and dents than a textured floor. Hand scraped has indentations in the wood. So this looks like someone took a hammer or a tool and pounded the surface in a random pattern.
So like you gave a toddler a tool?
Right. And every company is going to have a different look. So you can go anywhere from very subtle to extreme with these indentations. And this will help hide scratches and dents. Distressed wood, this is treated to make it look like it's a worn piece of wood. So they actually create dents and holes. Simulated burn marks, they discolor the edges, they create wear marks in the wood.
I don't understand this look at all.
So this is good for high traffic homes, if you have a home with a lot of pets.
Carpet.
And then wire brushed. So the wood has been treated with a wire brush, and they follow the grain, so it deepens the grain lines and gives a very textured look to the surface.
Yeah, this looks nice.
Hardwood flooring also comes in grades, and there's no industry standard, but the NWFA, the National Wood Flooring Association, established a grading system, but most companies have their own system.
They just ignore it?
Right.
That's not nice.
And so this is for solid wood. Most of the engineered wood isn't graded. For pre-finished wood, you have clear grade, which is the best, but some companies also call it first grade or select. And this is the most uniform in color. There's little or no knots, holes, or marks. A step below this is select. Some companies call it better or second grade, natural or number one common.
Oh, this all makes sense.
And this is uniform in color, very little knots, holes, or marks. A step below that is rustic, although you'll see it called third grade or number two common. And you're going to see definite color variation, knots, and marks. And then the lowest grade for most companies is either called utility or cabin. And you're going to see surface defects, marks, wormholes, and some checking, so small cracks. For unfinished wood flooring, you're going to have clear as the best, and this is the most uniform in color, very little or no imperfections. And then below that, you're going to have select, country, traditional, and tavern, although it can vary between the companies. You can get pre-finished and unfinished wood floors. The pre-finished floors are sanded and finished by the manufacturer, and there's a variety of different finishes. One of the most popular is 7 to 10 coats of an aluminum oxide finish, and many of these are going to come with a 25 to 35-year warranty. You've got ceramics, special acrylics, and these are also extremely tough finishes. Mohawk Armor Max has a couple of lines with a 50-year finish warranty.
Wow.
Bruce has some with a 50-year warranty, and Shaw has a couple of lines with a lifetime limited warranty. And all these are going to have care and maintenance schedules that have to be followed to protect the finish. Right. The pre-finished floors are cured at the factory, so you're going to have a durable surface you can put to use immediately, and there's usually no odor. With unfinished wood, you're going to need to sand it, apply your own stain, and then you have to put a finish on top of this. So a lot more work, cleanup, you have cure time. The most popular finishes for unfinished flooring are water-based urethanes, and to completely cure, it takes 1 to 3 weeks.
Wow.
Solvent-based polyurethane cures in 2 to 4 weeks, and this has a pretty strong odor for a few days. And then moisture-cured urethane. This cures in 1 to 2 weeks. Again, a very strong odor, but it has excellent durability. And the pros are saying that no self-applied finish is going to be as durable as a factory finish like the aluminum oxide.
Because you'll probably have to redo it, right?
Well, all of them over time, but like the aluminum oxides, especially if you don't have a lot of traffic on your floor, it's going to last much longer than anything you can apply yourself. Solid hardwood comes in a variety of widths. 2 1/4 inches wide to 7 inches is the most common.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, amazing the different widths. And 2 1/4 to 3 1/4 is the most popular widths. That's probably what you're going to see in most homes. With widths over 3 inches, companies are usually calling these planks. And a lot of decorators are saying boards under 4 inches wide are going to give a more formal look, where the planks 4 inches and wider give more of a country or a casual feel. Boards can also come in a range of thicknesses. 3/4 inch is the most common, along with 3/8 and 5/16. And with this 3/4 inch solid wood board, you're going to install this over a wood subfloor at ground level, and it's called on grade, or above ground level called above grade. Because solid wood expands and contracts with moisture levels, you wouldn't be putting this below grade like in a basement or gluing it onto a concrete slab. Some of the thinner 5/16 solid wood is allowed to be glued to concrete at ground level, but you need specific adhesives. But in general, you're going to be nailing or stapling 3/4 inch solid wood flooring to a wood subfloor on or above ground level. Before installing solid wood floor over a wood subfloor, you want to check for any loose, damaged, or squeaking areas, and you can secure it if you need to with 2.5 inch deck screws to the joists. And if the subfloor flexes at all, you can add 3/8 or 1/2 inch plywood as an underlayment, and then you're going to glue and screw this into place. You want to bring all the boxes of your flooring into the area where you're installing it. Most companies want you to have airspace under the box and then cut the boxes open. Some ask you to remove it from the box. The temperature needs to be 65 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and the humidity from 35 to 55%, 3 to 7 days before you install it, so check your labels.
Wow, this is complicated.
Yeah, and some companies want larger periods for the wood to adjust because it is amazing how much moisture wood takes in. And with solid wood floor, you need to control the heat and humidity all summer and winter to prevent damage to the flooring. So this is something you've got to keep track of from now on once you put solid wood flooring.
This is a commitment.
It is. And you don't want to install solid hardwood like in a cottage or vacation home, especially if you're not going to be controlling the temperature and humidity all year. Depending on the part of the country you're in, you might want to test the humidity level in your home first before deciding on solid wood, so you can buy a hygrometer
I'm
and
sure
analyze
all of our
it.
listeners have that.
So some coastal areas, the humidity level is just too high if you leave your windows open a lot, if you're not controlling the indoor humidity. And then think about the installation. If you're using pneumatic nailers, it takes a little higher skill level.
Right, you need to practice.
Yeah, because you can easily split the wood, and then you constantly have to adjust the angle of the nail or staple and also the pressure. An easier type of wood flooring to install is engineered wood flooring. So this has a top layer of hardwood, and it's glued or fused onto a core layer. So the top layer is called the wear layer, and the core layer below this top layer is 3 to 12 cross layers of wood. It's pressed and glued like plywood, so you're going to get strength and moisture resistance, and that core layer is going to reduce the amount of expanding and contracting. With the engineered flooring, this can be installed in more areas in the house, including below grade in a basement. And this is going to come in a wide range of hardwood and texture to the wear layer. And boards are 2 1/4 to 7 inches wide, generally 3/8 to 3/4 inch thick. And the thickness of the wear layer is what's going to determine how many times it can be sanded and refinished. A 1 millimeter wear layer can't be sanded, and it can only be recoated. They say that it's going to have a 20 to 30 year life on average. A 2 millimeter wear layer, this can be sanded and refinished 1 to 2 times, a 30 to 40 year life. A 3 millimeter wear layer, this can be sanded and refinished 2 to 3 times, a 40 to 50 year life. And a 4 millimeter or thicker, you can resand this and finish it 3 to 5 times, has a 50 to 100 year life. Where compared to like a solid wood floor, 3/4 inches thick, that can be sanded and refinished 5 to 7 times with about a 100 year life. And then all these figures can be shorter if you have high traffic and you don't care for it well, or it can be much higher if you have minimal traffic and you take care of it very well.
So do you plan on walking on your floor?
Slippers. A few companies with thick wear layers. Northern Solid Sawn, S-A-W-N, they have a few lines with 4 millimeter wear layers. Owens Plank Flooring has a wear layer of 4.7 millimeters for their 5/8 thick planks. Northern Lights, their click lock flooring, has a 4 millimeter wear layer. And Uptown has a 5 millimeter wear layer. Most engineered wood flooring can be installed just like solid wood. You can nail it to a wood subfloor, but you can also glue this down to dry concrete slabs, but you'd want to check your installation instructions. The most popular method for installing engineered wood floors is a floating glue joint, or they have click lock floating floors. With the click locking engineered floors, this has a special tongue and groove that locks together without glue. And when you're building this, you're going to leave an expansion gap along the walls and the edges of the flooring, about a 1/2 inch, although check your requirements. And then after you've installed it, you're going to cover this with the baseboard and quarter round. And this can be installed over most solid floors, like ceramic tile, vinyl, wood, or dry concrete, usually less than 4% moisture level. And you can never install this over carpet.
Bummer.
So you'll use a recommended underlayment. So foam or cork is very popular. Cork is going to reduce sound. A 1/4 inch cork has 2 times the sound deadening of 1/8 inch cork. And then if you're going over a concrete slab or a cement slab, you're going to use a 4 to 6 mil plastic. You're going to overlap it and tape the seams. A floating glue joint is the most popular way to install an engineered wood floor. So you want to make sure that your subfloor is clean. Use your recommended underlayment. And then you're going to put a bead of glue in the groove side of the wood. And most of these glues for floating floors are going to set up in about 10 minutes. You're going to want to have a damp cloth to wipe up any excess glue right away. You're going to want to pick up a tapping block. So this is going to protect the tongue and the edge of the wood. And this is a plastic or a rubber square or rectangle piece that you're using a rubber mallet with to knock the pieces of wood together. You're also going to want to use a pull and pry bar along the walls where the block won't fit. And they have some specialty bars that actually have a double hook, so you can use a rubber mallet to pull the boards tight.
Interesting.
Pros suggest working left to right if you're right-handed, using longer lengths of the flooring at entrances and doorways, and your shorter pieces in the field in a random pattern. You're going to be using a water-resistant PVA glue, so Tight Bond 2 Premium is recommended, Elmer's Pro Bond, Tight Bond, Tongue and Groove Glue, and Gorilla Wood Glue. Not their polyurethane, you'd want to use their specific wood glue. And this is a Type 2 water resistant. The Type 3 is not water resistant, and the Type 1 is waterproof. You want to remove the baseboard or quarter round trim and then dry fit and lay out your first row. You can flip them over and number each board and then stagger the ends of the boards 6 to 10 inches as you have each row. And you're going to use random length boards to create these staggered patterns.
So they come in different lengths?
So some manufacturers are going to have random lengths in the boxes. So on the box, they're going to give the max and min of the lengths of the wood.
Okay.
And then some boxes are just going to be marked with the average length. But it's really convenient if you get them with the random lengths in the box.
Right.
That way you're staggering the ends as
And
you
don't have to cut?
Well, there's less cutting. You're always
Right.
going to have to cut
Right.
at the end. And then with the glue, most of these glues have to dry 24 hours before you get any foot traffic on it.
That's a bummer.
You want to measure or lay out boards across the width because you don't want to end up with a piece an inch or less at the opposite wall. You want it to look even on both sides. Undercut your door jambs, so you can use the flooring as a guide, and then a pull saw is just a great tool. It flexes. You can put that piece of wood up to the door jambs and then use that to cut it down. I would use spacers around the wall.
Cut what down? The wood? The floor?
The jam. So you're gonna the door jambs.
Oh, okay.
So you want that. You want to be able to slide your flooring right underneath the door jambs. You want a little bit of space. So the width of the blade will give you enough room for expansion and contraction.
Okay.
And then you want to use spacers around the wall because the floor is going to expand and contract. A 1/2 inch expansion gap is usually recommended, but again, check your label. Have the groove side facing the wall and push that first row firmly against your spacers. That first piece you cut is usually used to start the second row, and that's going to help establish that staggered pattern for the ends of each board. And then use a tapping block to keep the wood tight. Any glue that comes up between there, wipe it off right away. And then as you have your additional rows, you're going to use painter's tape every few feet to keep holding them together. So it just puts a little bit of force on there. The outside walls are usually the best to start against. They're usually the most square and straight. Many of the interior walls aren't going to be square. And you may have to scribe a line on that first row and cut it lengthwise to follow the wall so you keep that 1/2 inch spacing. Some pros suggest just drop a chalk line for your starting edge and then take a 1x3 piece of wood, and then this way, rather than putting your first pieces of wood against the wall or having to cut them first, you're going to drop a chalk line, have enough room for a 1x3, and then you're going to push your flooring up against this.
Okay.
And then when you're finished, you're going to remove that 1x3, and then you can finish it by cutting and scribing those pieces by the wall. And then you're going to want to think about the transition pieces for going into different rooms or onto wood or other material. If you plan on gluing down your engineered wood flooring, some of the pros say it's easier to do the middle section first and let that cure overnight and then finish on the edges. So they recommend dropping a chalk line using small pieces of wood hot glued to the subfloor, and then you're going to push your first row against that, do the whole middle section, let it dry overnight, and then finish the remaining sections by pushing against the center. And they say it's much easier to control because you're really working with this sticky glue and troweling it.
Yeah, but this seems weird to me.
I don't know, they say it's much easier. If you're gluing down to concrete, you want to make sure it's under a 4% moisture content, so you can use a moisture meter. Most manufacturers recommend epoxy membranes for concrete or sealers, but you're going to want to check the installation requirements. And then check the requirements for the blade when cutting through your flooring. You're going to be using either a table saw, a circular saw, or a power miter saw. Plywood blades, 80 to 100 teeth or more, are usually recommended. Carbide blades are going to last longer. And then wear dust masks. An N95 is usually recommended. One of the top companies is 3M. And then Pliny the Elder, we haven't talked about him in a while. He said in ancient Rome, the top-rated dust mask was an animal bladder skin.
Nice. My cousin just texted me a quote the other day
Yeah?
from Pliny the Elder.
Really?
He's
I
like,
love it.
Yeah, he's like, I'm sure you'd like this.
And what was it?
In wine, there is truth.
Nice. And make sure you're wearing a dust mask, because when you're sawing, sawdust is classified as a carcinogen. You'd want to wear safety goggles. A couple of the top rated are from Carhartt and DeWalt. Earplugs for anything over 85 decibels. And many of these power saws are going to be 100 or more. And 3M is probably the most popular, top rated that you're going to find in hardware stores. Knee pads are handy.
I'm sure.
CLC, KP Industries, and McGuire Nicholas have some top rated. And then safety shoes are actually recommended when you're lifting these boxes and using these tools. And an interesting safety shoe I just picked up is from Skechers.
Right.
So very lightweight, very comfortable shoes, and they have a composite safety toe. So that's a nice one. And then for safety, for if you're using table saws, some of the top rated tools are from Bench Dog Tools. With a circular saw, this is going to be spinning up from the bottom of the board and exiting out the top. So the top is going to get the most splintering.
Okay.
So when you're cutting your flooring, if you're using a circular saw, you're going to want to cut it with the face down. If you have a table saw or a power miter saw, the blade is rotating down through the top. In that case, you're going to want to keep the face up while cutting. And then
complicated.
And the ends, you need to make sure it's a very precise 90 degrees. You're going to want to constantly check your table saw or miter saw if you're using that, and then use a square to create a very good cut line. If you're using a circular saw, I would support it and clamp it, because you have to be very precise. You're going to do a much better job if you can either pick up an inexpensive power miter saw or rent one. In the early U.S. colonies, workers used a two-handle cross-cut saw to create wood floor planks. So they did this in a saw pit. So they had these planks, or they called them dogs, that were above this pit to hold the log to be sawed. And you had one worker on top of the pit following a chalk line, and then one worker was inside the pit pulling down on the saw. And some etymologists say that this is where the term top dog and underdog came from. But then other guys say it came from dog fighting.
You know, I was kind of proud of you for not going on any tangents this
You know,
episode.
two men could
but
create...
that's out the window now,
Two
isn't
men
it?
could create about 12 boards a day, and then they would collect that sawdust to use it for burning. Interesting, huh?
Nope.
Some top-rated engineered wood flooring is from Anderson, Armstrong, Mohawk, Bruce, Kars, that's Kahrs, Jasper, just because they have a really cool name, and Shaw. Engineered flooring that's CARB Phase 2 compliant, uses low emission adhesives for better air quality. So these are the toughest regulations for formaldehyde emissions.
That's good.
For maintenance of your solid or engineered wood flooring, you want to check your manufacturer's recommendations to maintain your warranty. But in general, daily you want to sweep and dust mop using a microfiber pad. Weekly, vacuum with a soft brush attachment. You don't want to use beater brushes. Monthly, use a floor cleaner with a microfiber cloth. Bona, B-O-N-A, is recommended by many of the pros. No ammonia, abrasive cleaners, or pads. And they don't recommend using steam cleaners because of the moisture.
Right.
Every 3 to 5 years, some finishes are going to need a maintenance coat of a hardwood floor finish depending on the surface. Every 10 to 20 years, you're going to have to sand and refinish depending on the type
just move.
Right, yeah, that's too much. The amount of traffic you have is really going to depend on how often you're going to have to refinish. And then have an entrance rug. You don't want a rubber backing on it because it holds moisture.
Right.
Take off your shoes. What's interesting, a 125-pound woman in high heels, those heels can produce up to 8,000 pounds per square inch and create little dents in your flooring. And then on all your furniture and chairs, use felt pads and change those routinely because dirt is like sandpaper. For the warranties, there's structural and finish. For the structural warranties, they're guaranteeing it's not going to crack, split, or warp, but you need to make sure that you're following their installation instructions. So their grade level, the subfloor, whether or not it can go over radiant heat, the type of underlayment you have to use, and then the moisture level that you maintain in your home. With the finish warranties, they're guaranteeing it's not going to peel or blister and that finish won't wear through to bare wood. but you've got to maintain it to whatever their instructions are.
Right.
And it's going to vary from 15, 25, 35, and 50 year. And then there's a couple with a limited lifetime.
Nice.
I spoke to Grant from Build Direct, and he had some additional flooring tips.
Let's take a listen.
Grant, how you doing? JC.
Hey, I'm very good. How about yourself?
Good. Cindy and I were talking about flooring this week, and we were hoping you could share some tips on how to choose the right flooring for your home.
Yeah, so let's jump right into it.
Okay,
so
great.
First thing you kind of want to consider when you're purchasing flooring is where in the home are you going to install it.
Okay.
So you can go in the kitchen, the bathroom, the living room, basement. All these different areas in the home are going to undergo different conditions, which can lend itself to choosing different floors.
Okay.
And then you also want to go and consider where you're putting it in the home in relation to the ground level. Now, a lot of different floors, they react differently to moisture. So depending on where in the home it's going, say in the basement, you can experience higher moisture contents there, so you might be having to steer away from different floors.
And do you have a suggestion? Let's say I am thinking about the basement.
Yeah, so if you are putting floors in the basement, you've got a couple options. Obviously, you can go with tile. Tile's a product that's going to be very resilient, doesn't really get affected by moisture all that much. But if you do want to go with the wood image floors, you'd want to probably look at a product called engineered hardwood.
Okay.
Solid hardwood can be a little bit unstable when you get into really high moisture contents. Engineered hardwood, it's got a real veneer of wood on the surface, so it's a lot more stable just because of the way the product's manufactured.
Interesting.
Yeah, so another thing you want to take a look at is your traffic level. So how busy is the household? Do you have kids? Do you have pets running around?
Right.
Depending on that, you want to obviously pick a floor that's going to hold up to that level of traffic. The different types of floors are going to have different types of abrasion resistance. For example, like laminate flooring has what's called an AC rating. Porcelain and ceramic tile, they have a PEI rating. Hardwood flooring has what's called a Janka rating. All these terms will explain to you how durable that product is.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is quite interesting. For example, if you go into the Janka rating. Janka rating for hardwood is going to be how dense that hardwood is. So if you've got a medium traffic home, going to something like an oak that's around a 1,200 to 1,400 on the Janka rating, that can be absolutely acceptable. If you want to go something, a really high traffic home, so you do have a lot of kids and pets and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
South American species like Brazilian walnuts, Brazilian teak, they have extremely high Janka ratings. But if those terms are really confusing for you, at Build Direct, we've got a team of customer consultants here who are very, very educated on the product that you can always speak to.
Okay, great.
So another consideration, of course, is going to be your budget. So that can lend itself in a number of different ways. Just because a floor is very expensive doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the most durable product. If you are looking for something kind of on a lower budget range, say $1.50 maybe to $3 a square foot, you probably want to look at a product like laminate flooring or vinyl tiles. Those products can be extremely, extremely durable. They can last a long time, but they're on a lower price bracket. Laminate flooring, you got to be a little bit careful with it when you're talking about moisture exposure because it is on a high-density fiberboard core.
Right.
Vinyl plank flooring is extremely resilient and also extremely moisture-resistant as well. Both manufactured products that give you that wooden image. Another thing you want to consider, though, when you're talking about budget is the installation cost. So when you're looking at tile flooring, for example, you might say, oh, great, this tile is only $1.50 or $1.75 a square foot. And that is great. The product cost is low, but laying down tile can be very expensive. You have to deal with a lot of mortar, thin-set, grouts, anti-fracture membrane. You have to be a pretty experienced do-it-yourselfer to want to tackle it. And if you did decide you wanted to go out and get a contractor to do it, that square foot install cost can be quite high. On the flip side, going with something like a click-lock engineered floor, a really nice wood-looking floor, natural appearance, but it can be installed using a floating method. So it doesn't have to be glued or nailed down, which means the installation can go really quickly and it can be pretty low cost to install.
Yeah, smart.
So another thing you probably want to consider is your particular environment. Now, this isn't something people always think about when they're purchasing floors is, where are you located? Are you in a coastal region where the humidity is really high? Or are you, say, at an elevation that's really high, somewhere, Colorado, Denver, where your humidity is going to be very low? That can have a massive impact on how your floor stands up over time. wood flooring likes to live in a range of around 30 to 55% relative humidity in a home. It can vary depending on species. So as long as you're able to keep your humidity within that range, that's a good thing. If you are, say, in a coastal region or you're down in Florida and the humidity is very high and you want to get a hardwood floors, definitely recommend purchasing a humidity tester and have that in the home in the area that it's going to be installed. Look at the readings before you bring that flooring in, because you hear some horror stories from customers. They put down a beautiful floor and they spend a lot of money on it, and then 6 months later it starts to buckle up and their floor starts to fail on them because the humidity in the home is too high. Another thing you want to really consider is how the product's actually going to look in your home. So, you can go to a store, take a look at the products there. We at Build Direct, you can see the products on the website. We're an online company. So now how that product looks in the store or how it looks on the screen can change quite a bit from when you actually bring it into your home. The lighting in your home, how much natural light you get, the paint on the wall, the color of the paint, the color of your furniture. All these factors can change the look of the actual product. So we always recommend getting a sample of whatever you're going to look at. Take a look at what it looks like. We do send out free samples at Build Direct for a lot of our materials. They get shipped out overnight so you can see them right in your home.
Really? That's interesting.
Another thing you want to make sure is if you are going with an installer, that you're comfortable working with that installer. Your installer is always going to be the final inspector of your material. So when I say final inspector, you want to make sure the product you're laying down is exactly what you want. With building materials, when you order a product and you start installing it, installation constitutes acceptance. So if you do have the product shipped to your home and your contractor's there, make sure you're going to go to the home and you're going to take a look at the product. You're going to open up a few boxes before he starts laying it down. Because once he starts laying it down, that means it's yours.
Right. Okay.
Take into consideration the care and maintenance of your particular type of floor. Tile is something very, very easy to maintain. Once it's installed, you can wet mop it. That's no problem at all. Laminate flooring, for example, is, like I said, it can be a little bit subject to moisture damage. So when you have laminate flooring, you do not want to use a heavy wet mop on it. That can really, really damage your floor, and you want to make sure you're cleaning up spills right away. With wood flooring, most wood floorings have high quality aluminum oxide or urethane based finishes on them, which lend themselves to really easy maintenance. But with wood flooring, you do really always want to be careful of shoes. Do you have rocks in your shoes? Do you have furniture, the heavy furniture that you're going to be moving around? Always put pads in your furniture. Really, really try to protect your floor to keep it looking nice. Watch out for particular types of finishes with wood flooring, because they can be different. If you have like an oil finished floor, for example, using a Bona standard hardwood flooring cleaner on the oil finished floor can potentially ruin your floor. You want to use a specialty oil soap if you do have an oil finished product.
Okay. If someone wanted the look of wood, or they didn't necessarily have to have real wood, they didn't care whether it's a laminate or a composite, what would you say is the easiest to put down and maintain, or can you get both?
Vinyl plank flooring, 100%.
Vinyl plank, okay.
Yeah, the product has just come leaps and bounds in the last few years. A lot of people, when you say vinyl plank to them, they're thinking, oh, the old rolled up sheets of linoleum.
Right.
Not the same. We have really high resolution vinyl imaged planks that look like wood. Some of them are even what's considered embossed and register.
Okay.
So what that means is the wood image that's on the surface of the floor is actually matches up exactly to the texture when you touch and feel the floor. So it's a very, very beautiful, very realistic floor. And vinyl is obviously extremely durable,
right.
Almost totally waterproof. In some cases, some particular vinyl products are completely waterproof. And a lot of them are click lock products. So they've got really, really perfectly milled locking mechanism on all four sides, which allows you to just lay the planks down and move on. You're still going to have to purchase an underlayment, which is basically a sheet that you roll out underneath the floor to protect the vinyl from any kind of moisture in your subfloor or any imperfections. But for ease of installation, very, very durable floor and a great price point, vinyl is definitely where I push somebody.
Interesting. So this would be floating, so you would put this down and then you'd put your baseboard over the edges. You'd need to leave a gap like you would with other engineered wood?
Yeah, so you would definitely still want to leave an expansion gap. That's always just a good idea with any kind of flooring.
Okay.
A vinyl floor, because it's typically a polyvinyl chloride material, it's not going to absorb as much moisture as a wood floor.
Right.
So while it's going to expand and contract, it's not going to expand and contract as much. So yes, you still want to leave an expansion gap when you're putting it down. Definitely still cover that up with a baseboard or a quarter round, whatever you'd like.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, great. How about warranties? Is there a product like the vinyl plank? Is that going to have a very long warranty? Is there a big difference in warranties on the flooring?
Yeah, so there can be for sure. So vinyl planking are usually going to have higher warranties and longer warranties just because they are more durable materials. It's going to be very rare you can find a commercial warranty for things like laminate, engineered hardwood, or solid hardwood. They're just not warranted for commercial settings. But flooring, yeah, you can actually find a lot of products that do have commercial warranties. But it is important to take a look at what's involved in that warranty. Typically you're going to have two components of it.
Okay.
Structural warranty. So that's, is it milled correctly? Is it sized correctly? Is it structurally stable? And then you're going to have your finish warranty. Now that's going to be for products that are pre-finished, and that's going to define things around, is the finish fading? Is the finish flaking off of the product early? Things like that. But it is important to note that, no warranty ever covers site-related damage. So make sure whatever flooring you're getting, you're testing it out, and you're making sure that the everyday wear and tear you're going to put on it is going to stand up to it. You don't want to get a nice wood flooring in your house and then have a party where everyone's wearing a bunch of high heels and you've got, unfortunately, not something that's covered by warranty.
All right, very good. If people wanted to see more about your company, where would they go?
Yeah, builddirect.com, our website. A lot of the products you're going to see are 50% of what you'd see at a local big box store. We cover, most of the building material categories. So we do a lot of flooring. We even do siding, decking, roofing. Wow. Constantly expanding our product offering. We are, in fact, a marketplace. So new suppliers can come on and launch products with us all the time, which is great because you're seeing a lot of new and innovative products appear on the site all the time. We also have an excellent blog and learning center.
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah, a lot of educational articles on there. I mean, you can sit on there and read, for hours if you're up for it.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time, Grant.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for having me on.
Okay. Take care.
All right. Take care.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye.
Grant did a much better job of explaining the Jenga rating than you did.
Well, he is a professional flooring expert.
Uh-huh.
And they have a really nice site. They have a lot of information that you can pick up on different types of flooring, and then they also have the flooring that you can purchase.
Do you have anything else to add?
I would say examine the boards before installing and
Give them time to acclimatize, too.
Right. Yeah, it's natural wood, so you're going to have some bad pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Keep a couple of cartons and the labels and your receipt. That way you can return that to the store or ship it back. You want to mix the boards from different boxes because you're going to get a more uniform look depending on the grade. And then compare your warranties and know what you need to do to maintain it.
Mm-hmm.
And then buy a hygrometer.
Let's wrap this up.
You can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, the Spotify mobile app, the Google Play Music app, and iHeart Radio.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review.
You can check out our home improvement videos on our YouTube channel, Fix It Home Improvement.
And you can subscribe to that as well.
You can download our book, Home Improvement Solutions, What Every Homeowner Should Know, on Amazon.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star rating and review.
You can email us at fixitpodcast@gmail.com. You can talk to Cindy on Twitter at FixItCohost.
Thank you for listening.
Talk to you next week.